Hello and welcome from our lovely new studio up here in Onken. The topic of this video is cost of living in the Isle of Man, and particularly grocery prices. And this video will also be the first in a new little series that I want to do that covers cost of living, because I think there's a lot of potential to inform people and also to talk about it. I want to encourage discussion with doing this. And I will create a new playlist and we'll see what other topics we can cover. But this first video is about groceries, staple foods, compare how they are priced across the Isle of Man. Well, in general, how much does stuff cost over here? If you're not here, you might be interested to know how much a pint of milk is. And also compare how they are priced in the different supermarkets and shops that we have over here, because there are big differences. And I think it's worth highlighting them, talking about them, and yeah, basically giving you a good idea of where you get the most bang for your buck. So late last year, I created a Facebook page called Out of My Cost of Living Advice and Help, and now it has reached 1,000 members. I figured it's about time I make good on the promises to really do that and spend time on it and proactively try and share information and encourage discussion and get people involved. There are still other plans for this page, and I know there are other pages. There's one called IOM Heat and Eat, which I wasn't aware of when I started the other one. I googled cost of living, nothing came up, so of course I didn't Google that particular name. I will link to both of them in the description, because both of them are valid, do good work, and to share information and talk about cost of living and help each other is really more important than ever these days. But I don't mean to compete, and I never meant to compete with the other group, and we can all work together. What I want to do with this cost of living group also is to get other people involved, such as charities, NGOs, non-profits, that kind of thing. And there were already discussions behind the scenes, and there are ongoing discussions with some people. So hopefully now with the new year here, we can sort of kickstart that and bring a bit more information and value to that page. But for the moment, so I'm going to, of course, share this video on that page. So thank you if you're watching it there. And what I want to do with this first video in the cost of living series is to, just look at the basic staple foods that you see here. For this purpose, late last year, I went to all the main local shops, and that, of course, is Tesco, ShopRite, Spar, the Co-op, and Marks and Spencer. And I literally very unscientifically took a piece of paper and wrote down the prices of staple foods as they were on display, to get a better idea of A, what things really cost, and B, how much prices differ from shop to shop. And you'll be surprised how much they can differ. We'll see that in a second. Couple of caveats before we go into this. Well, firstly, I noted all these prices down on a Google Sheet, and this sheet is shared in the group, and I will share it in the comments here, and I will share it, of course, in the post that I put up for this video in the Facebook group, so you can have a look at it. I first did this exercise back in September of last year, and I have just repeated it a couple of days ago. So this is January 2023. And what's interesting in some of these prices is, so I'm looking at it here just to give you commentary, and you can pull it up on your screen and follow me along if you want. What's interesting is really how some of the prices have developed. We always talk about inflation and everything gets more expensive, but it's not that easy to track how expensive in detail things have gotten, or how much something has gone up in price. And by doing this, I hope that we can sort of keep a better eye on the way prices develop, and how different shops price things. Have they gone up? Have they not gone up? Some stuff hasn't gone up in price. Some stuff has gone down in price. And keep a better eye on that. I have been speaking to the OFT about this as well last year. This is a discussion I need to really restart this year, because I was trying to get them involved. The OFT, the Office of Fair Trading, is already observing a number of prices on the Isle of Man. They're already recording that and monitoring that, energy particularly. And I think it would be good if they could expand this to, sort of a general sort of shopping basket of staple foods, to give us a much better understanding of how prices develop and how much people charge and where it's cheapest to shop. Because things have gotten more expensive, and everyone's starting to feel it. I'm one of those people, and I'm sure some of you are the same. When you go do your weekly shop, you always roughly know how much it is, because you always buy the same stuff. And more often than not, recently, you put all your stuff in your bag, and then you look at the price, how much you have to pay, and then more often than not in recent times, it's like, how much? Like, I was really surprised by the pricing, and we haven't bought anything else that we haven't bought before. So everything must have gone up so much. So let's look at it. So as I said, the Google Sheet is in the description of this video and in the comments on the Facebook page. So you can open that and follow along. I'm not going to go through all of them. I'm just going to cover these because with some of them, there's some commentary and some info that's not on the sheet that I would like to share with you that I hope is useful to you. And really, I would love for you to get involved and help me with this. And going forward, maybe we can do monthly or at least quarterly price comparisons. It's very difficult to do this on my own because there's no automated way to do it. I have spoken to a certain app developer based in Castletown who have access to checkout systems of supermarkets, but they're not interested because they don't want to pit supermarkets and shops against each other. I very much do want to. I want to, make sure that if you go shopping, you get the best bang for your buck. And whoever offers that, that's where you should go and shop. So I'm not going to go through the whole list, but through these here. Let's get started with the most staple food that everyone will always, the most, do you know the price of a pint of milk question? And, a pint of semi-skimmed out of Man Creameries last September would have cost you 75p across the board. Now it costs you 80p. Strangely, when I checked this in Tesco before, a couple of days ago, on the same day as I recorded all the other prices, it was 85p, when it was 80p in all other shops. And when I went back today, it was down to 80p again. So I don't know how they do that, why they did that. I was always under the impression the creamery sets the price for these. Maybe someone can tell me in the comments if you know more than me. I thought this was a sort of fixed price item that the Isle of Man Creamery tells all shops a pint of milk must be this price. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Tesco can do what they want. Also, a few caveats before we really dive into this, just in case any of you guys who run these shops, watch this and take legal notes. All prices were recorded by myself in person on the same day. Well, except I checked this again today. And just manually, I recorded what was visible on the shelf, the cheapest item of every type, unless otherwise stated. And whatever was on the shelf. So even if it was sold out, if there was a price tag on the shelf, that's what I recorded. No guarantee that any of the prices I recorded were correct. This is purely for your information and reference and a bit of entertainment. Also, the prices exclude any loyalty card, like your club cards, prices and offers. Exclude any multi-buy, any discounted food, any expiring food, any special offers. So these are, straightforward, cheapest item at a normal price at this quantity visible on the shelf. So I hope that makes that a little bit clear. I also put a note onto the Google Sheet. I just wanted to mention that. So continue with our little pint of milk, 80p these days. So it's going up from 75 to 80p in the last 3-4 months. Actually, this was on the 2nd of September that I did it. So almost 5 months now, five months. It's gone up, but not by much. The next one on the list is bread. And there is one very, very clear winner on the whole Isle of Man. And that's Tesco with this beauty, which costs you an amazing 39 pence. There is no way in hell that they make money on this. This is clearly a loss leader. This is clearly an industrial bread. The ingredients list would also sort of indicate that it's just a very cheaply manufactured industrial bread that is provided as a loss leader. It's much, much, much cheaper than any of the other breads. This was 36p last September. It's 39p now. The nearest that you can come is actually, surprisingly, Marks & Spencer. Their bread used to be 70p, which I believe used to be done by Manx Ramsey Bakery. I don't know who makes it now. So their cheapest one, surprisingly, was 70p, I believe, last year, if I am not wrong. I'm just flipping back and forth. Yeah, it used to be 70 pence last September. It's now gone up to 85 pence. And when I went to bread, by the way, I forgot to mention, the item I looked at is an 800 gram wholemeal loaf sliced. So this model, okay? So yeah, cheapest by far, Tesco, 39p, second cheapest, surprisingly, Marks & Spencer's at 85p. Again, I suspect it is a loss leader. They're not making money on that. You don't make money on a 75, 80 pence loaf of bread. I just don't believe that. And then, you go up, the other guys usually, so Co-op was about £1.40, ShopRite £1.40, and Spar, 169, the cheapest, which I believe was the own brand one. Again, this is purely for information only. Spar, please don't get angry when I, as unfortunately will be the case, point out that your prices, from what I have seen, I'm not claiming they are, tend to be a little higher than others. So, quickly, of course, the next thing you want some butter. And this one, the cheapest, is Tesco, 1.99. Price gone up. How much has it gone up? Let's have a look. Quite a lot actually. This used to be 155 last September. And yeah, it seems to have gone up across the board. If you look at the sheet, so in co-op you pay 220. You used to pay 175 last year. So yeah, butter, Tesco is the cheapest at 199, but butter seems to have gone up quite a bit if you look at the Google Sheets over the last 4 months. Moving quickly on to the next thing that, cheap food, spaghetti, noodles. Again, a very, very clear winner with Tesco, 28 pence. Used to be actually cheaper than that. Used to be 26, I believe. No, it used to be 20 pence last year. Now, a pack of spaghetti, 500 grams. Again, I looked at a plain 500 gram pack, so I always, look at the same. So I look at 250 grams butter in Spar, in Co-op, and so on, okay? Cheapest one that I can see. I hope that makes sense. So cheapest spaghetti by far, again, is Tesco at 28 pence. Used to be 20 pence last September, so it's gone up. Again, I don't think they really make money on that, but, if you have families, if you need stuff, then spaghetti are staple food, and they want you to come to the shop. So insanely cheap. The second cheapest then actually was ShopRite, 89 pence, and then you're looking at M&S has some for 95p, again very cheap. Co-op costs you £1, and in Spar, the one I could see, plain spaghetti, again it's whatever's on the shelf, 165. Moving quickly on to 6x, or in the case of this particular box, 5x, because I just smashed one and everything is covered in egg right now. The cheapest I could find was, I believe it or not, ShopRite, £1.30. But when it comes to eggs, I looked at medium 6-pack, any type. So it doesn't matter if they're caged or free range. Nice to see that most of the cheaper ones are free range now, so that's good. But yeah, the cheapest one was ShopRite, 130 for 6x, medium size. And then Tesco, 135 following that. And then I think Marx's more. Marx's and Spar pretty much the same. So moving on to the other staple food everyone needs, and that's coffee. And with coffee, and I didn't actually bring mine. Coffee, ShopRite's the cheapest at 187 for the little own brand on the bottom shelf. That has stayed the same. If you go to Tesco, if you're shopping Tesco and you want to find the cheapest coffee, it's not on the coffee aisle, by the way. It is the Chibo coffee, and that's in the Polish aisle, that little Polish section. There's a little 250 gram for £2. That's the cheapest. Nothing in the coffee aisle is cheaper. So sometimes it even pays to go into other areas of the supermarket. But ShopRite beats Tesco on coffee with £1.87. Tesco then, if you find the one in the Polish aisle, the Chibo 250 gram. I actually looked at the 227 grams, so you actually get even more at the Tesco one. £2. Spar, £2.99. Co-op, the cheapest I could see, £3.20. M&S, £2.90. And coffee instant, 100 gram, cheapest of any that's on the shelf. There you go. This is from Tesco, who were the cheapest at £1. And I don't think that has really changed very much. Oh, it has actually changed. This has gone up from 85 pence in September, now costs £1. ShopRite also very cheap, £1.50 for instant coffee, as is Co-op. And M&S, surprisingly, £1.30 for the same 100 grams of instant coffee, regardless of brand, right? Just 100 grams of instant coffee this size. So Tesco cheapest, then Marx's, and then ShopRite. The thing is, what I found with Marx's is they are not... Marx's we think of as a posh place, right? This is where like the posh middle class shops at Marks and Spencer's. It wasn't. Some of the stuff they have, yeah, of course you can buy stupid things and spend stupid money in there because they have a lot of stupid products. Stupid as in, fancy. But if you're careful on what you're looking for, then Marx's actually, for some of the staple foods, is not that expensive, as you see on this sheet. So moving quickly on, because I want to not hold you too long. Tuna, everyone likes tuna. The cheapest round tin like that, which usually is about 145 net, 100 gram drained weight. So the cheapest can of any type, doesn't matter if it's water, brine or oil, that I could see on the shelf. Tesco wins again at 55 pence for this particular one. Again, insanely cheap. Last year, let's have a look what it was. It was 85 pence last year. So there was no special offer on this on the shelf that I could see. So either they made it a loss leader, they dropped the price, or something happened. Everywhere else has gone up a bit, as you can see from the sheet if you follow me along. So tuna, we have, £1.10 at Spar. Actually, Spar stayed the same. Very nice. But yeah, the cheapest you can find is 55p. And then surprisingly, again, Marks and Spencer's in second place at £1.05. Co-op 1.15. Spar 1.10. ShopRite 1.40. Right, next item on the list, can of beans. Again, total staple food. People will buy a lot of these things. The cheapest by a mile, again, Tesco at 27 pence. This price has actually dropped from last September, strangely. Again, there was no special offer on the shelf. It was regular price, whatever was visible on the shelf. Cheapest item of this type and size, regardless of brand. And that's 35p last September. And now it costs you 27 pence at Tesco. So for some reason, the price has actually gone down. And then the next cheapest beans that you can find are from Maxis at 50p. Again, surprisingly, Maxis not that expensive. Actually, I'm wrong. 49 pence in ShopRite, and then 50p at Maxis, 55p in the Co-op, 79p at Spar. So I'm going to skip potatoes and things, but I will say a little. So potatoes, they're all, I think we have to look at them sort of by kilo. But I want to quickly look at onions, because they are, so I haven't got any here, but some shops, so some of these items, some shops sell by the kilo and some sell them pre-packaged. And it's quite clear to me looking at it that the pre-packaged deal is a bad deal. So if you go to, say, if you go to ShopRite, you get, if you go to Tesco for onions, red or white, cheapest one I could find on the shelf was 55p per kilos. That's pretty cheap. Now, if you go into Spar or Co-op, you will find that, for example, Co-op sells them a pack of 3 for £1. And completely unscientifically again, I weighed a pack of 3 in Tesco that was sort of the same size as the ones that Co-op sells for £1. And you know, have the little self scale where you can put stuff on. And that pack of 3 was half a kilo. So you are paying £1 for roughly, okay? I'm not saying this is super duper accurate, but you're paying roughly £1 for 3 onions, which is roughly half a kilo, when you could have a kilo for 55p if you buy it by the kilo in Tesco. So the price difference there is absolutely massive. And there's no weight given on this pack of 3. It's just 3 onions. So it's a bad, in my mind, in my opinion, maybe you disagree, but in my opinion, it's a bad deal. And there tend to be a lot of these sort of vegetables and things that Co-op and Spar sell by the piece or by multi-pack rather than by weight. And it is my impression, I'm not claiming that's totally correct, but it's my impression that this is a worse deal than if you bought it by the kilo. And they don't even give you kilo prices on some of them. But maybe you can comment, maybe we can talk about that. So yeah, potatoes, onions, I'll leave out for now. I think we have to revisit how we measure them. But cheese! So this one is one of the few where I looked at the brands. I looked at IOM Creameries, this type, cheapest one on the shelf. Doesn't matter if it was the mild cheddar or the other cheddars. Lovely, lovely cheese. Last year, this would have cost you £1.80 at Tesco. And everywhere else, it was about £2 thereabouts, with the only outlier being Spar, £2.49. Now, in January, this very same pack, still costs you £1.80 at Tesco, still costs you £2 at ShopRite, so it hasn't actually really moved. And still costs you £2.49 at Spar. So the very same thing costs you 50 pence more in a Spar. This is purely observation. I'm not saying they're the most expensive one, just in case they get angry, but go in a Spar, have a look. Maybe you can confirm this for me as well. That's, the very same product that 5 minutes down the road costs you £1.80 in Tesco, costs £2.50 in a different shop. Next one, of course, something everyone always buys. And again, one of these where I think if you buy the packaged deal that they offer, you get a bad deal. This is my impression, I'm not saying this correct. Is bananas. Now, if you go to Tesco, you can buy them for 78p per kilogram, which is insanely cheap. Again, I believe it's a loss leader. Because if you go to ShopRite, the same bananas will cost you £1.43 per kilogram. And, I don't think that ShopRite would charge that if they wouldn't have to. So, very likely a loss leader. But what's interesting with this, again, is, actually surprisingly, hold on. Maxis also, same price. Again, see, Maxis not always that expensive. Maxis the same price at 78p per kilogram for bananas. Co-op 110. And then Spar, again, the package thing, which my impression is a bad deal. This is my impression. You can buy 5 bananas for £1.10. And then a little plastic, which is horrible anyway, right? You can buy a single banana, I think, for 45p or 25p or something. And then you can buy 5 for a prepackaged 5 for £1.10. Again, doesn't have a weight on it. It's just 5 bananas. And from what I saw, they looked smaller than these. But if you look at this, so these are, how many have we got here? There's 6 proper big ones. This is 1 kilo, by the way. I deliberately bought exactly as close as I could get 1 kilo of bananas just to compare. The portion in Spa looks way smaller, so I suspect it is less than a kilo. Maybe someone can buy one and weigh it for me. And it costs you £1.10. And my feeling is if you go to Tesco and you buy it by kilo, or if Marxies and buy it by weight, you get a way better deal than a prepackaged 5 bananas that looked smaller. But again, only my impression. So the message I think seems to be avoid these package deals and always buy stuff by weight, by price per kilo or price per pound if you prefer. And always, compare prices that way. I think that is the way better thing. But again, let me know what you think. Flour, self-raising, any brand this size is what I looked at, 1.5 kilos. Cheapest one, surprisingly, Marxies, 75p. And then Tesco with this one for 80p. And then ShopRite, Co-op 105, ShopRite 110, and Spa £1.69. I will leave out chicken breast and beef mince because there I just looked at their different sizes and things. Again, I would welcome any sort of feedback from you guys in the comments. How should we look at meat and that kind of thing? What's the best, fairest way to compare those prices in terms of portion size, in terms of item across shops? I'm totally open to feedback there. I'm sure some of you will have better ideas than myself about this and will be able to help me. Carrots, again, the same. Some of it is by size and some of it is by package. But generally, carrots, Marxies, I think, was the cheapest. 45p per kilo, which is insane. Marxies and Tesco, 45p per kilo. Spa, £1.70 per kilo. Broccoli, there he is, the little one. I eat loads of this, so always buy that. And there, Tesco is still the cheapest. Actually, no, I'm lying. Marxies, 70p, then Tesco, 72p. So, see, it's sometimes surprising that Marxies, again, isn't that expensive on these things. Moving very swiftly on to rice. This actually isn't the cheapest one. The cheapest one, again, I always looked at this size, any brand. If there wasn't any stock on the shelf, I still noted down the price, because it could have been that someone just bought it before me. Plain rice, 500 gram pack. Cheapest, again, by far, Tesco, 46p. And then followed by, who was next? Marxies, 115 for the plain rice at the bottom shelf. You always look at the bottom shelf, right? That's where they put the cheap stuff. And then Spa, third cheapest at 139. And the last item on the list is Cornflakes. Don't have any here. Now, Cornflakes, Marxies doesn't seem to stock Kellogg's. So I looked at Kellogg's Cornflakes. So their own brand is 85p, but you can't really compare that because it's not Kellogg's. It's not the brand. And the other shops, so ShopRite and Tesco, seem to have the 500 gram pack of Kellogg's plain cornflakes for $1.99. Spa has a 550 gram pack, it's a slightly different size, for $2.99. And I think the same is probably the case in Co-op, where it was $2.65. That's either 500 or 550. So again, cheapest if you go to Tesco. So that's pretty much, the list. It gives you a bit of an overview of what stuff costs and how prices have developed. These sheets are in the description, so you can look through them yourself. And I think it's an interesting exercise to do, and it's an interesting exercise to continue to do, to monitor prices for ourselves, because I don't think the government does. And I think we, as a community on YouTube, Facebook, and on the island as a whole, could probably do more here, because this is something, if we want to expand on this, I will need bodies to physically go into the shop and note down the prices on a piece of paper, because the supermarkets are very unlikely to provide those prices. In an ideal world, I would want this sheet to be done with 5-6 different data feeds from the different shops, and they update in real time, and we have like a little living document that gives us prices. That's not going to happen. I don't think the supermarkets would be willing to help us with that, so we have to do it manually. Maybe we can do that as a community. That'd be awesome. For now, this is a very unscientific, very basic little exercise that I started, that I would love to have your input on, and that I hope gives you a bit of an overview of prices and how prices are developing. And I really want to continue doing this at least quarterly, to look how prices develop. So, by the end of this year, probably a pint of milk will cost you £1. Very likely, right? because it's gone up a lot already. So it'd be interesting to observe this more from this unscientific, very basic, go in the shop, note down prices exercise. It does appear that if you shop at Tesco in the Isle of Man, you get the most bang for your buck. Again, I'm not saying that's 100% accurate. This is just my opinion, my impression, in case any of the others get angry about this. But it does appear so. And all these prices, they were without club card prices attached. So these were just the standard prices. And of course, if you count in that you get club card points, then, this is sort of like a cashback thing, right? You get your vouchers, so that makes it even cheaper. ShopRite, you of course used to have their loyalty program. They don't anymore. I don't know why they got rid of it. I remember having the little key fob. Maybe they should, consider doing that. I personally, I get the whole shop local thing and whatnot, but I don't really get what my incentive is at the moment to shop anywhere else but the cheapest place when it comes to supermarkets. Now, I'm not saying for all shops, I'm all for shop local where it's, small independent local shops, but ShopRite, their slogan at the moment is, it used to be Max to the Max, right? And I think now it's proudly locally owned, which is, to me, is such a meaningless slogan. What is that supposed to mean? All supermarkets here employ local people. So what does it mean? What does that mean for me as a consumer, right? I think there's potential there maybe to do more or something. I don't know. But yeah, what seems, this purely, again, unscientific observation, Tesco appears to be the cheapest place to get your staple foods, as you see them here, the set. ShopRite also, reasonable. Maxis, surprisingly cheap sometimes with some items. So if you're there, don't think of it as, the posh place. Some of the staple foods are very, very surprisingly priced. And Spar, I'm afraid to say, and this is again just my impression, I am not saying they are, to me appear the most expensive one of the lot that I looked at, and that is a bit disappointing because, as I'm sure you know, if you live on any of the estates on the island, there's a Spar around the corner. Now, when I spoke to people about this before, I've discussed this with Jed, I've discussed this with some friends and colleagues, they were saying, well, okay, Spa might be a bit more expensive, but it's convenient. It's next door. You can walk there from your house. So, you don't have the cost of having to drive to Tesco or to ShopRite to the supermarket in town, right? So let's say, the Spa actually that I looked at, just for your reference, is the one in the picture. It's the one in Annika and Douglas South. South Douglas, Best Douglas, everyone knows that. So I went to the one in Annika, both times, September and now. I went to the exact same shops every time, otherwise that exercise wouldn't make sense. And yes, I get what they say, that it is probably more convenient to go there. So maybe you pay a little more for convenience, but some items you just seem to pay, I don't know, a lot more. And I'm thinking, if you don't use your own car, if you use a bus ticket, some of the items, if you do a weekly shop and say you take the bus from, say, Annika down to Douglas, then even counting in the bus ticket back and forth would be no more than £4, wouldn't it? It's just £1 something, so £3 something. It would still be worth doing it, and I suspect it would even still be worth doing it with most cars if you did the maths of how much a car costs you per mile overall. So again, this is something, let me know what you think of it. Am I right? Am I wrong? Do you mind paying for convenience? Maybe you don't mind paying a little more for convenience, for not having to jump in the car and, going into hand-to-hand combat at Tesco at 6 p.m. during a workday. Then it's fine, it's just choice. But I have a feeling, and I'm afraid that these prices, this convenience, may be negatively affecting people who may not be able to afford a car, who are not able to go to the cheapest supermarket, who are dependent on their local convenience store, and that they may not be getting such a great deal. And that concerns me a little bit. But again, this is something I think we should talk about, and I would love to hear your feedback and your comments on it. That's about all for this video. I think it's long enough. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you can help me and talk to me and let's discuss and comment and share opinions on general pricing on the Isle of Man. How can we monitor this? How can we make sure that wherever we shop, we get the best value for money? And I'm sure that together we can come up with, some really good ideas during the year. And let's do this again next quarter. So it's January now. So, let's try and do it once per quarter, and then let's see at the end of the year. Once we have sort of a year's worth of data, then we can probably start to sort of, make our own little price index if you want. And then everything will hopefully be easier for us to monitor, and we can keep a better eye on how much the cost of living is really going up. So that's the first video in a new little group list set of videos that I want to do. Next one, I'll probably look at energy and something. But again, if there's a topic that you want me to cover on cost of living, stick a comment in and I will, have a look at it. But I have some ideas already. This one was groceries. The next one, when I get around to it, I'll add it to this playlist. Thank you for watching, and let's talk about it, and I'll see you soon.